All right. Well, welcome everyone. Ooh, Joseph Trujillo. I like the green EXP shirt. That is very cool. I am a fan of Kelly Green. All right. That was like front and center on my screen as I was getting going here. You just like popped into the center spot. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our Builders Call and the month of September. For those of you that may be just joining us for the first time or catching us on replay, we do this call the first and third Tuesday of every month. The purpose of this conversation is best practices and really creating a community and collaboration and skilling up around using your influence to build and grow and scale and nurture a thriving organization within EXP. And so at different phases of the journey, there's always different learning lessons. There's different challenges and obstacles that are being faced. For sure, there's someone that's come before you in that and navigated it in a way where they found solutions. And so we're here to really share about those things. And what we find is that the people that are in the greatest amount of action are coming up against the greatest amount of challenges, which is really kind of where the sweet spot is, because it's how you accelerate a learning curve and developing skills and really creating mastery at a high level. So as always, what we'd love to do is make this call about what you would like to walk away with at the end of our time together today, such that you feel supported and that you feel like you are in solution at a different level, or unstuck if you're feeling stuck, or a renewed vision if your vision is perhaps waning. So the only way that we're able to really develop a robust conversation around that is through participation and people really sharing what's going on for them. So this is why we have the group chat function. And if you want to put into the chat function what you'd like to walk away from today's call with, we'll make sure and wind that into our conversation. But before we jump into that, and as you're doing that in the background, I would like to each person, unless you're driving, of course, and you're in a black box that's driving and we only see your name and not your face, I'd like to have you close your eyes for just a moment. And I want you to envision yourself in a feeling space where in your body, you're feeling energized, you're feeling inspired, you're feeling motivated, you're feeling clear, you're feeling confident, you're feeling certain, you're feeling unstoppable, and you're feeling like today is a day that is on the way, one day closer on the way to what you're creating and really what you're bringing about. I just want you to feel that, what that feels like in your body for a moment. All of those feelings. And then my question for you is, as you go into your day today feeling like that, what do you imagine will be different than if you went into it feeling like you may have felt just jumping on the call today? And as you start to think about that, the next layer is, who just generated those feelings of being clear, of being confident, of being energized, of being inspired? You did, by taking just a moment to get clear on it and to focus on it. So as you open your eyes and bring yourself back into this conversation that we're going to have today, there's so many different conversations that can happen in a context of breakdown. And some of the breakdowns, I think, are where we learn the most, for sure, and where we become better. And it's, even if we go into a day and we go in with that intention of those are the emotions that we're feeling, we're creating and generating those feelings and experiences in our body before we ever go out and have a conversation with someone or meet someone or have an interaction, is that's what we are bringing to that interaction, because that's the foundation that we've laid for ourselves by getting clear on it and focusing on it that day before we go into life. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to get derailed and go sideways. So what I would love to start this call off with today, as the group chat is currently empty, and that may be because you guys had your eyes closed, and it would have been counterproductive to be attempting to add to the chat with closed eyes. However, for those that have something that they're feeling very inspired by, that's a win that you'd like to share, we'll take 3 wins, only 3. So the first 3 that would like to share, we want to hear from you on what's working really well, what you want to celebrate or acknowledge, or something that you just broke through in this context. It could be even your own mindset around something.
Relationships, guys. I think for me, relationships is probably the biggest thing. And I was trying to bring in a lot of people through digital marketing and stuff, but what you find out with those people is that they're not going to duplicate. They're probably the low-hanging fruit. So I'm focusing on quality over quantity, and that's been more rewarding for me.
I love that. We're going to definitely come back to that point. Who else would like to share a win?
I'll go after. I'm with him. I'm with Will. I think this is my first time in a role of like heavily recruiting. So I found myself feeling really like taking it personal when we would interview somebody and then they wouldn't join. I would just think like, we're the best. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, we're the best. And I think because it comes from a good place in my heart that like I literally want everyone to experience what I've experienced in my life through real estate. And I don't think people see that. And I'm learning to be okay with that, because maybe we're not the right fit for that person, but it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what that person needs. So I think this last couple of weeks have been really helping me transition that mind shift. To not take it personal and know that like whoever's going to be aligned with our group is going to come in the right place and in the right time.
I love that. So there's something I want to tag on to that win, and that is that a lot of times in that context, Maria, when you're doing something at a high level and you're doing it well, and like that you're doing things at a level of excellence, like of course we're the best. Like, look, I mean, come in and like follow us around for the day and watch what we do and how we do it, and we're creating results and we're delivering results, and you're saying this is what you want. And like, how is it? It's obviously a no-brainer that you would be working with us together in our organization and become a part of, co-creating and collaborating and building. And number one, I want to acknowledge you for that, because what that means is that you have a focus and intention on excellence in what you're doing personally, to have that level of confidence when you are speaking to someone else and feel that great about bringing them into what you're working on and how you're working, because knowing that they're going to get results and they're going to grow by doing what you're doing, right? So you're leading by example, and thus you're able to have that certainty when you go out. And then sometimes it's a match and sometimes it's not, right? And one of the things that is in the beginning and even down the road that is so important, I think, as a reference point, is that for every person, for every decision, there's a certain set of benefits and there's a certain set of drawbacks. And it is going to be true regardless, right? So let's say that there's somebody amazing that you've been working on, and they're going through, exposure process, and it looks like they're going to come and work with your organization, and then they decide not to, and they make another choice. Well, there was a certain set of benefits of them being with your organization, and they were also going to bring a certain set of drawbacks. Every single person has a set of benefits and drawbacks that they bring to any situation, right? And so it's always going to be about weighing those out, and how we can manage our own energy and our own perspective around things is recognizing that however it's happening is how it was meant to happen, so that we can quickly move on and move through, right? And so when I know that, wow, I know if someone's going to work with me, I bring a certain set of benefits, and I also bring a certain set of drawbacks. And when we only focus on one, like, oh my goodness, this person was like a top producing person, they've got great influence in the market, you know, it seemed like we were a cultural match, and we don't realize that that person was also going to bring with them a certain set of drawbacks, we can get ourselves like emotionally off kilter if they don't end up becoming part of our organization because of the perception that they have more benefits than drawbacks. Whenever there is a perception that there's more, like, man, there's more great things about not having this person with us, the loss or the pain of that is going to be the feeling of that, or the discouragement that could come with it is a lot greater than if you realize that with any person that comes into organization, there's going to be benefits and there's going to be drawbacks. And so when the people come in that are the people that come in, they're the people that in that place and in that time and who they are matched up and aligned for all of the things that we're not able to see or really know, and trust that process of like, man, that's not how I would have wanted it to work out or that I envisioned it working out, but it did. And therefore I trust that whatever that match of benefits and drawbacks was, it wasn't for the highest collective good of all involved, and whatever happened was. And the great news is that person lives with their decision. So they live with the decision that they make, whether that is to become part of our organization, to become part of someone else's organization, whatever those decisions are going to be, they take with them. And it's not until things play out really in the long term that you start to see how those things, you know, shift and really play, right? So if you're around long enough, you'll see and have experiences of like, and it happens both ways, right? Like I have experiences like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that I could, the level of contribution that this person was going to be, or the difference that they were going to make in the organization by being part of what we were creating, right? Because it wasn't apparent at first, and then it comes out later. And then it's also been like, holy smokes, I did not realize that with all of the like influence and like things that person could also wreak havoc at such level that could be like, you know, not great in the same context, right? So there's always this kind of moving pieces and energies and parts that are going on at any given moment in time. And it's just like really trusting, like, hey, if my focus is growth, I know where I'm going. And however that's going to happen, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm putting it out there. I'm doing the work. I'm having the conversations, and I'm being somebody that invests in others and is about helping others while staying true to what's true for me. That is what there is for me to do, and everything else over time takes care of itself. So I love that you shared that. I know that was a long-winded kind of piece on the back end, but it's really intricate. At the end of the day, like, we're working with people, right? Everybody wants to make it about EXP. And at the end of the day, everything about life is people. It's relationships. Like Will said, yes. Oh, wouldn't it be great to like funnel everybody through and just have people pop into your organization and you never had to talk with them because they were on ClickFunnels? Sure. But now what? Are they actually selling real estate? What kind of people are they? What is the flavor of the organization and the culture look like? And it's this, when we can lose the immediate gratification and get the like, hey, go slow to go fast, not meaning go slow, just meaning when you take the time and build foundations and you are really building people, that those compounded over time is what creates massive, really incredible growth that's on a solid foundation that lasts and is a sustainable growth, right? So it's a long-term mental play, it's a long-term vision, and then it's getting up every day to align behind that. Okay, one more person who is enthused about sharing something that you are really excited about, that's working for you, or that you busted through.
I will share. I feel like I've busted through, just really enjoying the process. I was stagnant for a long, long time. And when I looked at it, I was realizing, well, I haven't been putting the action in. I haven't been putting the effort in. I haven't been making any phone calls or reaching out. So of course, nothing's happening. And so I made the commitment to, on a daily basis, 1 or 2 calls. I didn't tell myself I needed to call 100 people a day, just 1 or 2 calls. That has added up to a lot. And my conversations have increased as a result of my call volume increasing. And it hasn't related into more three-way calls yet, which comes back to, I hear you in my head all the time, Casey. Okay, well, if you're having the conversations and you're not getting to the three-way calls, so there's a breakdown somewhere. So now I'm in the process of where's that breakdown and how can I improve taking the calls and getting them to three ways. But I'm just enjoying the process. And I know as I just continually do that, it will get better and better. And I'm not so attached to what the outcome is. I'm evaluating everything, but I'm just enjoying the process of increasing my action to get more results.
I love that. So one thing that you said, there is somebody that I follow that I really have a lot of respect for. His name's Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he really talks about the habit of preparing your mind, doing the work to every day intentionally get up and create new neuroplasticity within your brain so that you're not the same person that you were yesterday and you're actually growing into a new possibility. And, he talks about people that are religious in that practice, like no matter what, do it. And then he also talks about times where people stop for whatever reason. And he always says, I love what he says about it. He says, I don't care why you stopped. I don't care how long it's been since you've done it. Like none of that matters. All that matters is that you start again. And that is exactly what you just talked about, in your share of like, oh, you know what? I started having conversations again. I started connecting with people again. And when you do that, now it's like, okay, next opportunity is how do I move those into like where I'm actually moving people now through a process that's going to have the three-way call and the validation and expanding into a larger conversation become part of that. But the second thing that you mentioned was enjoying the process of it. And I think that that's something that is a great reminder for all of us. I know it's a great reminder for me because every single person that's on here, as I'm looking at your faces, you're running successful real estate businesses, and you're also taking part of your time and energy and investing them in agents and the success of agents and the building of organizations in attraction and recruiting. And so it is never, that can be like, check the box, check the box, check the box, check the box. I get up and I look at my schedule every day and I check the box on everything that's in my schedule. I've done it at the time that it was meant to be done. And it's possible to do that in the absence of connection. It's possible to do that without enjoying it. It's possible to do it as a grind and check the box and go, I did the grind, I checked the box. And the experience that you have in that, if that is how you are working, is probably going to be devoid of all of the emotions that we closed our eyes and went through experiencing or feeling in your body at the beginning of this call, of being passionate, of being enthusiastic, of being excited, of being clear, of being like confident, and all of those things. If you're just checking or ticking a box versus here's my day and here's my conversations, and my commitment is the experience that I'm going to have as I go through those and enjoy the process of it and the connection of it and the supporting and being there for someone and working with them through what they've got going on to what's next. So thank you for sharing, John. And we can definitely talk about, and that kind of rolls into it, that topic of you've gotten someone in conversation now, and how do you use the number one most powerful piece of leverage that you have, which is not making it about you and making it about the greater collective, right? Of, okay, who we're working with and who's a part of the organization and who now becomes a part of your resources and assets. So if I always say, if one person's experiencing something, there's other people that are experiencing it as well. And so we've got some incredible people on the call today that do a ton of third-party calls and have really created mastery on moving people into those conversations and executing those conversations. So would love for you to just share, if you can, identify like what is the point that you feel that you're stuck at in moving that to that next space, or where the breakdown is.
I think it would be understanding or really being curious about them and getting to a point where I'm understanding and getting them to talk about what their pain points are or where they're at, because I'm in a situation where I find myself explaining the benefits of why this would be good for you or why it was good for me, because I feel as though, hey, this is why I made the move to EXP, and it's not necessarily going to be why they made the move. And so I think the breakdown is coming in just maybe getting them to trust me enough to open up about it and maybe asking the right questions.
Yeah. So you gave it away in what you just said is there is making a statement versus asking a question. So in your sharing the benefits that you've experienced as a statement, how can you, like, if you want to say something, how can you make that a question? Because a question creates engagement. So let's take what's one of the things that you would say?
For me, one of the big things was when I realized the savings I would have from going from a no cap company to a cap company. So
Okay.
my first year, I saved $130,000 moving from Sotheby's to EXP. And I'd been in the business for 17 years at the time, and embarrassingly, I had no idea what a cap was. I'd never been with a company with a cap, right? So it blew me away.
Yeah. So, okay, let's seek the wisdom of the crowd. So if John's in a conversation with someone and one of the value points that he talks about or that he knows himself is the moving from a no cap company to a cap company and what that means, if he's in conversation with a prospect that may or may not be relevant for, how could you turn that into a question that would create curiosity and bring someone into a conversation on that topic? And take yourself off mute when you've got the question and how you would formulate it.
I'll jump in, Casey.
Yeah.
So if somebody's never experienced a cap, I would ask them, I would say, hey, what if you did have a cap, right? And you certainly would have one here at this company. And let's say hypothetically last year they paid $24,000 to another company. What's possible for you in your business if you had an extra $8,000 of income that could go toward you generating new leads or creating more marketing material? Do you think that would enhance your business, and how? That's one question.
Great. Love it. Who else has one? What's a question that you would ask the prospect to get them thinking about that value?
I'll throw it in there depending, if it's a cold call or rapport or whatnot. If I was in rapport with them, I'd be like, basically, hey, how you doing with Sotheby's? And, what's your cap now? I'd let them answer the question. As soon as I got that information, I'd be like, wow, that's extraordinary. And I'd probably pause and they'll say, well, what do you mean by that? Or something to that effect. Or, and I would go into it of like, well, right now I'm only paying $16,000. So I saved X amount of dollars by switching brokerages. Have you ever considered, investigating more about other companies so you can get a lower cap? The cash flow is important in this type of market. Something like that.
Love that. Thank you, Brent. Who else has one? I like the direct approach of what on earth would cause someone that does not have a cap to have one. And have you ever considered what the impact of that would be on your business? Versus, right? So questions get people thinking. And when you bring them into, like, I'm always challenging myself. If there's something that I want to say, how do I put that in the form of a question so that I get engagement? Because I can say it, and if it falls on deaf ears, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I could be I could be like mic drop right and left. And if it's not connecting or resonating for the person that I'm speaking with, it's there's not value to them, right? And so, yeah, Brent, your hand's up.
Sorry, I'm trying to work on raising the hand that way. So I think the biggest thing is asking them what's important to them, right? And really finding out about them and their business, where they're at now. So I'm always asking questions. Hey, how many listings do you have? You know, are you predominantly a listing agent or a buyer's agent? How many buyers do you have in escrow right now? I'm trying to figure out how much cash flow they have in escrow, how much income they have income projections over the next, 3 to 6 months, and see where they're at in their business. And if I can get that data from them, I'm going to build a little bit more rapport, and then I'm going to start asking intrusive questions, or at least hinting towards a three-way call or a class that somebody's promoting or something like that to start dropping value. So I also go by the rule of 95% normal market. It's not this market. It's probably 80% of the agents, 70% of the agents right now are not looking to move, but they're looking for income opportunities. And typically what that resonates with them is a buyer and seller, right? Who can list their property right now, and who can get in the car to go look at a property right now that's, an able, willing buyer. And so that conversation has to come first, in my opinion, to really understand where they're at in their business before we start, talking about EXP and them switching brokerages and all that stuff, because the stress level goes up as soon as you start that. Like, they don't want change. Most people do not want change. They will run from change. And so if you're having those conversations with people that change, it stresses them completely out. They'll shut down and they move on. So example, I've got a Mike Ferry agent I've known for a long time that I'm working on, very, very analytical at Berkshire Hathaway, does not have a cap. And I've been working on her for some time. Invite her to classes, sent her, I think Tony Robbins had like a Women Up Power Woman Summit or something. I sent it to a bunch of people or women to help them, support them in their business. And then I'm following up. I'm talking through text. I'm talking on the phone. And then I just had coffee this week with her to talk about her and her business. So I'm dropping value. And, an analytical person, they need all the information before they're going to change, right? That's a hard one. And now I've got coffee this week with that person, and it's because I'm dropping value, and I already know that change is a very, very difficult thing for this person. So I've got to cover every aspect of it to make this person feel very comfortable. And with EXP, I've already invited her to EXPCon. Hopefully she'll tell me this week she's ready to go, all of that. So it's a process, but it starts with where they're at with their business, and can they even envision changing? And that, getting somebody to envision changing is a process in itself, right? So just that mindset shift. And then down the road, it's going to be, okay, maybe I can bring them to EXP. So anyways, hopefully that helps y'all.
Yeah, I love that, Brent. It really, there's this there's this concept about change, right? And I always say, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change, people will change, right? And so the conversations sometimes are really in this context of education and helping people with their business, is that they may not realize the pain they're in because they're just used to it. Right.
Well, that right there, Casey, is what are they not saying in that conversation, right? Because they don't want to tell you that they're failing in real estate. Their ego is going to get hit, and that brings them into present reality. That's spoken out loud. They do not want to face that, and so they surely don't want to be judged by you as a peer or as a leader. And that's a hard thing. You have to be in rapport. You have to show care, and you have to show a path where they can get help without causing embarrassment. So,
well, maybe I'm having the cap conversation too soon, because if I think about agents that I talk to, myself included, most of us aren't always thinking about and treating this like a business and thinking about profit and loss. We're thinking about, when are we going to get our next deal? How can we get our next transaction? How can we do more transactions? And when you start talking about their business and how many transactions they're doing, how many do they want to do, or how can they get their next transactions, then you can lead into a conversation about, well, if you did 3 more transactions, does that get you to your cap or whatever? But I think maybe it just seems that most of the people I talk to are more just interested in how can I do more business? And maybe leading with a cap conversation is that's what's interesting to me, but that may have no relevance to them.
I love what you
Yeah.
said. That's like dead on, right? If you think about a doctor, if you went to a doctor that gave you a prescription without knowing anything about what was going on for you, that would definitely be some kind of malpractice, right? Because you're prescribing without knowing what's going on for that person, right? A doctor doesn't do that. They find out everything about what's going on, and then they make recommendation based on that, right? The recommendation comes after they know what's going on, or they've made a clinical assessment before prescribing a solution, right? So if you think about what we do in that same way, if we're prescribing solutions for people and we don't know that, we don't have a full picture of where they're actually at, quite possibly we're prescribing things that have no merit or value to them where they're at that day in their business, right? And to kind of wrap in what you're saying, Brent, in this conversation around most agents, like, what are they thinking about? They're thinking about their real estate sales businesses and production, because that, even if whatever we're calling it, that transactional income, right? Linear income based on the amount of transactions that they're able to do, that is what's feeding them in their lives. The secondary layer of that is outside of the transaction, the business and the life. Right. And so,
Well, and then Casey, on top of that, like most agents, they're not business people. They don't have daily schedules. They don't have a business plan. Like, they're winging it. They barely base. It's not organized. Like, these are the standard things for 20 years that I've noticed, that they're not going to change that by one conversation, right? That's a process. They're not going to spend money on their business to get better. Like, this is a theme, a constant theme in this industry. So it's attracting, real estate business attracts people that think that it's a glamorous business and they're going to make $50,000 selling a house and they don't have to do anything the rest of the year. Right. So, like, if you look at that and you're trying to shove a cap down their throat, they don't give a crap about a cap when they don't have any money and any business coming through the door. Right. They only care. They can only resonate with, it's like speaking a completely different language to most people. Now, if you're talking to a business person, that's different, but you got to identify them as a business person first. And that's through conversation, through asking questions, and getting to understand, and actually asking questions is how you build rapport. You can't build rapport just liking them, or spending a lot of time with them. You can build a lot of rapport, but asking questions is how you're going to build rapport to get in the position in order to, figure out what they're needing in their business. And then when the walls go down, that right there is, now you've asked enough questions to build enough rapport where their walls have gone down, and to be able to invite that conversation with you.
so on this topic of agents and production, we Empire Builders Pro, with Selena at the helm, launched something called Activate just over 3 weeks ago. And it's with this conversation in mind about the majority of agents out there, right now, are looking at, how can I sell more real estate? How can I do more business? How can I do business, period? And exactly what you said, Brent. They don't have schedules. They don't have, they're not holding themselves or working like a business professional. Selena, will you talk about what you've seen or what you're seeing with the people that have come through the Activate program and what that experience has been? I know in our newsletter that went out on the 1st, that you all received or should have received, whether it went to a junk box or it actually made it to you, there was some pretty incredible stats and experiences that people are having from being part of that. And so the reason why I'm having her share about this right now is that if you have people that are maybe not top producing agents having their best year ever, or those, 3 to 10 deals a year kind of people that really want or need to be doing more in their business, or haven't been in production in the last 30 days or 60 days, anywhere in that spectrum, that's really activate, or someone wanting to get structured and more disciplined and have some accountability and community support to do that. And will you talk a little bit about what you've experienced and seen so far, Selena?
Yeah, you bet. So we ran it about three and a half weeks ago. We had 100 people sign up, which was great. It was 2 days of fire hose learning, like double fire hose, 6 hours both days. Basically just teaching them about structuring their day, right? Exactly what that looked like. And it's definitely stuff that people had heard before, but it was, the idea behind it wasn't so much what they were learning in the class. The idea behind it was the accountability afterwards. And we've been having 30 days of submitting their daily success habits and showing up for huddles 3 days a week. They pop on with me at 8:30 in the morning. Now, have all 100 people shown up? And have all 100 people been submitting their daily success habits? No, I have a tried and true, probably 25 submitting their daily success habits regularly and showing up for huddles. Those people that have been doing it, though, have been getting into production. It's been pretty incredible to see that people that were not making calls, that were not door knocking, that were not doing the things that they knew they needed to do, even if they started at 5. Guys, these were people who were too afraid to pick up the phone before, that started at making 5 calls a day, then started doing 10 calls a day, then started doing 15 calls a day, that all of a sudden are submitting offers, all of a sudden putting things into contract, and all of a sudden having things that are going to close, right? People that had nothing, people that had not closed a deal in a year, had done nothing, that were terrified, that were surrounded by other people who wanted the same things they did, the same people that were all afraid, and that had a peer group that were all afraid. And supporting each other. So they all show up at 8:30 in the morning, 3 days a week, and talk about their wins. And when they get to borrow the belief of someone else that was also afraid and see that someone else did it, they feel empowered to do it. So it's been pretty incredible to see and watch and to hear and to see them do it together, which is awesome.
Which brings us to, we're going to be doing another one. And so if you're in conversations with people, it's important that, like, knowing the tools and resources that you have to offer, right? So John, if you're in conversation with an agent about their production and they're really wanting to get it up, or it's a lot less than it's been, and you're able to go, hey, do you want to do that in a community of people? Here's what we're doing. And now you have that as an asset to support you. Or if you've got agents that have come into your organization since we started the last one, and you're like, man, I need to stay focused on my real estate sales business and not helping this other agent in their production. Like, that's why we're here. And that's what that's for you to be able to plug people in and be supported in a community of people so that you can stay focused on what's important to you within your, within your sales business. And then also with your focus on recruiting, and allow and lean into us helping you be able to support the growth and retention side through that structure that's in place. I have overlooked Javon. His hand was up a couple of times, and I want to make sure that I didn't miss him. So I don't know if you're still there. I don't see you on video any longer. Okay. Well, if you come back, put your hand up and I will come back. Oh,
Hey,
there-
I'm here. I'm here. Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Yes, I just wanted to comment a little bit earlier about the conversation we were having. I thought that it was actually what I'm actually seeing when I talk to agents is that a lot of agents really don't know what's out here. They've been so long, so stuck at the brokerages that they're at. They don't know anything about caps. They don't know a lot. And one of the questions that I like to ask when I'm interviewing agents on the attraction call is, what are your real estate career goals? And when I ask that question, it opens up a lot. So I'm able to get into what they're missing, what their pain points are, what they're looking for, or whatever it may be. But asking that question opens up a lot. And in 4 months, 5 months that I've been here, I've been able to bring over a handful of agents, not top producing agents, but that is actually working for me.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it. Right. Anytime you can ask that question of painting, when you have someone, I think of it like a paintbrush on a blank piece of paper, like what are your goals? What are you working towards? And you get someone talking about what they want to create and what they want to experience, and get somebody in the dreaming space and out of the, where they're at right now today. So many people get stuck and focused on where they're at today. And they're just like, how do I get through today to tomorrow versus, oh, what's the bigger picture? What do I actually want to create? What do I want to be experiencing? And get them in that space where the energy shifts to one of possibility and wow, to get something different, being willing to do something different. And what could that look like? And now you're exploring and creating with them is magical. And I love that you're, having the courage to be outward focused, Javon, and ask those questions, right? And then be willing to hear the answers and help. Will, you had your hand up.
I was just gonna say what's been working for me is I'm more what did I learn last week? Intent and then mechanism. So everybody's gonna have the different mechanism. My mechanism has been social media, and it's worked really well. But they don't just come. So what's been working for me is just putting content out and creating awareness. And I think that awareness invites them to research me more. So as I continue to put out content, I see who's constantly watching the content. And what I've found with the top producers, they won't reach out to me. I need to reach out to them. But it's a warmer conversation because their interest has already been piqued. Their ego just won't allow them to make the call or speak up. So I take that step, and it's worked out well. I'm actually I'm meeting with a broker and Rick today at noon, and this is a gentleman that we've been following each other for over a year. And I took the step of reaching out, and not even about EXP, just reaching out to connect, on a different level, because I told him that, hey, I'm just out to build better relationships, and I found that through social media I've developed some of the best relationships I have right now, and I just wanted to take that to the next level. And as we're connecting, he started to ask me about EXP. Before the end of the call, it turned into basically I pulled out the presentation and then invited him to another call with Rick today, and then inviting him to EXPCon.
I love that. So you're utilizing and leveraging social media to have a one-to-many reach where people can really get to know you before they know you. Mm-hmm. And then, like, oh my gosh, now you're going to take the time to reach out to them personally. That's pretty incredible, right? So yep. I've heard multiple times, Rick will reach out to someone and they'll be like, oh, like, you're taking the time to call me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course I would pick up the phone. Like, how can I help? What's going on? Right. And yep. So when you build that, right, you build that influence, and then are able to start seeing and studying the behavior of people, which it's a sort of a pre-qualification process of sorts, because they're the ones that are resonating and connecting with your content. It's a great strategy. I found myself yesterday, there's someone that I've known for years in real estate who's very active on social media, and is like, I don't even really connect with the person as a person. Mm-hmm. But I find myself looking at her stuff, yep. When it comes through my feed, I'll stop and I'll look at it. And it's like, I don't like when we're in person, like zero connection. And like not somebody that I would spend time with, like, oh, I want to get to know you better. Like genuinely, I just don't feel any kind of like connection, but I look at her stuff. Mm-hmm. Comes through my feed and I'll look at her stuff. I'll read her stuff. It's like the strangest thing. It's almost like on the Jungle Book. The Jungle Book movie, the snake with the eyes that goes like this, it just draws you in and you're like sucked in, right? And so it's powerful, that experience, that content. I love that. Great. So as we are kind of developing this conversation of really what we're talking about is a couple of main things. We're talking about understanding people, and that for people in real estate production, and the real estate production is going to be at the forefront of their minds, unless they're like crazy top producing teams, like they're not thinking about production in the same way as an individual agent is thinking about production and putting food on the table for their family, right? So number one, know your audience and know who you're in front of, based on kind of where you're going to start that conversation or where you're going to be with them. Number two is this: how do you use questions instead of statements? How do you make a statement through a question to have someone start thinking in a different way? And then the third thing, and this is really just kind of making it easy, John, as it relates to what we're bringing up earlier, is if there's somebody that's going to, and Brent, you talked about this as well, if there's somebody that's going to help support you get into production, get into a higher level of production, or somebody that could be pivotal for you to have a conversation with at this point in your real estate career, is that a conversation you'd be open to having, right? And it is that easy. It's about making connections of that, right? So there's somebody that is, I don't see, that I was speaking with about a week ago, that is, brand new to this conversation of attraction and recruiting, and making and also not experienced in real estate. And so, okay, like, how do I go now in an industry that I haven't been in that way, with no experience, and what's the conversation that I have with people? And this is where that third party validation conversation comes into play, which is utilizing the partners that you're in business with and really getting them in those conversations. So if it is like, man, as we're coming to the end of the year, and a lot of people, yes, in addition to thinking about the holidays, if you're in real estate, you may be looking at, gosh, what was 2022 in comparison to 2023, and what is 2024 going to look like? That is a lot of a lot of agents that I've been talking to are thinking about that, or asking themselves that question, even if they haven't vocalized it. Is that something that you've been thinking? And that is an open-ended enough question that could go so many different directions as a way of just engaging someone in conversation, right? Of so what about, what about 2024? And what do you see for yourself that's going to be different than it was in 2023 or 2022? And what are the benefits that you see that you haven't plugged into yet, or that you'd like to, if anything was possible for you in 2024 in your business moving forward, if anything was possible, not knowing how, what would you like to see happen for you in your business? And get people in conversations that are, larger conversations that are not in the context of fear and contraction, that are really in a context of possibility. And then a strategic set of questions well, who's currently in your circle that you're collaborating with, or that you're in conversation with, that's supporting that for you? Or where are you currently tapping into? Are you open to other conversations and being in other conversations in other rooms, and, to support you in that? Or do you feel like you've got it pretty dialed in? And if you feel like you've got it dialed in, are you open to the fact that even actually more is possible? And, just questions to help people expand and start to think differently, right? And be in a different way of thinking than they may be, surrounded in right now. And for a lot of agents that are individual agents, they are in a very lonely, isolated conversation in their own mind, having their own experience. If they're in an office where they see other agents, and they may be comparing themselves, or feeling lost, or feeling, all kinds of different things that agents feel and that they experience when things aren't falling out of the sky into your lap like they were in 2021. So taking the time to have those conversations and really make those connections is key. We've got less than a month now, and we will be at EXPCon. And just as a reminder, in the Empire Builders Pro Facebook group, what you'll see is that Katie Delosto put a post in there about the VIP guest passes. So for anybody that registers, regardless of which ticket you register for the convention, you'll receive one VIP guest pass for somebody that is not with EXP to be able to come to the convention, no charge. And so if you are coming to convention and you are not using the guest pass for whatever reason, and you have an extra one available, or of people that are coming that are not using the VIP pass and have extras available, please let us know, because we have people that have multiple guests that they would like to bring. to the convention. And so we want to be able to pool those resources within the organization. You can respond on the Facebook group on that post, or feel free to just text me or Selena or Rick if you have access to, or you have one that's come available, because we do have people that are asking for them. All right. So as we kind of bring this, should we gather a list of all the speakers in our group and put together a flyer or schedule of events for all to support and attend the conversation? That is a great idea. Is that something that you would like to take bottom line for, Joseph? Selena's got her finger up.
I would love to. Yes, let's do it. I'll do it. I'll spearhead it.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but
I know Rick's-
I just don't have access to everybody from the org, from you guys on down, so I would need somebody to collaborate with that.
Selena's got her finger up.
Okay, Selena, I'll get with you after. But really quick, Casey, if I could, I think like I love the conversation about these conversations and like the things that we're saying in between the capping and finding out what their needs and all that. One challenge that I've noticed though, especially in initial calls, especially with agents that are just getting into attraction, is the last conversation piece, right? Which is the action. Like in these conversations, when you're inviting an agent to a conversation about attraction, they're leaning on us to steer the ship, to guide them onto what's next. And so I think that's an important piece to this as well, is like, what does that sound like? What does that look like when you have to create the second conversation with them based off of what you heard in this initial conversation, which may lead to a third party call or just getting them to sign the application, right? So I think that's something that a lot of the agents would like to hear about, is maybe some tips on how to direct that.
Yep. So I'm putting something in the chat. I'm putting a question in the chat that is a great open-ended question based on everything that we've talked about so far. What's next for you?
Boom.
And if you, at the end of every conversation, based on everything we've talked about so far, what's next for you? And, you know, sometimes people will go, well, I'm not quite ready. Oh, okay. So what is next for you? And if you notice when you ask questions and people tell you what they're not, if you just stand in the same question, stay in the same question of, okay, cool. So what is next for you? And as long as from their mouth to your ears, they've given you what's next for you, you have something that can, and sometimes people will say, you know, well, I don't know, right? I don't know what's next for me. I need to think about. Great. So what experience, what information, what will support you in that thinking process? And getting specific and helping them get specific, right? And then sometimes if they say, I don't know, you can give them a few options, right? So the option may be a conversation with someone that could be a game changer for them in their business and where it goes in the next 12 to 24 months. And now you're setting up a 3-way call. You know, if they're not ready to do anything like, oh, move to EXP. Sometimes Selena and Rick had an experience within the last couple of weeks where they were like, you know, okay, so what's next? And like, we're ready to go. And Rick's like, okay, well, we'll, you know, find a time on the calendar for next week. But they were ready to go right there in that moment, right? So because Selena was in the conversation, like she picked it up and later that day they're getting their ICA filled out versus like, you know, Rick was on to the next thing because like he was back to back to back to back to back, right? He's like, okay, great. We'll talk next week because I have no capacity right this minute. And he forgot that he had support, right? So the what's next for you and when is always going to keep that conversation, you know, active. And if someone just says, oh, you know, nothing for me at this moment in time, then that second question that I always ask people is it okay with you if I keep you in the loop as things progress? Because then at any moment in time, you're able to reach out and re-engage and say, you know, just check in. Hey, remember last time we spoke? I asked if it was okay if I kept you in the loop as things progress. There's been a huge progression. I wanted to to connect with you about. But first, how are you? How's your business doing? How's the family? What's happened since we talked last? Catch me up on what's happened with you since we spoke last. Right. And so it could be somebody that you hear at convention that is, that sparks a conversation of keeping somebody in the loop about, that's been in the loop, that won't allow or isn't ready for, or isn't going to go into any kind of next step in that moment. As long as you keep the door open and they expect that they're not going to hear from you again. Like if somebody asks me if it's okay if I keep you in the loop, I'm expecting that person is not that going to be that professional, then they're actually going to pick up the phone and never call me again because they were wanting something in that moment. Right. And then when they do, I'm like, oh, okay, this person's the real deal. Right. Because here they are reestablishing connection. And now they positioned themselves in a really powerful way in my mind where maybe they weren't positioned in that way before if we were just in those initial conversations. So Joseph, does that help? Fantastic. All right. We have 3 minutes left before the top of the hour. Any last questions, comments, thoughts anyone would like to share? All right. Well,
Have details been released on the Monday deal that we're doing? Monday afternoon?
So we have our generals leaders call tomorrow night, and we're going to be discussing those there.
Okie dokie.
6 p.m.
Casey, I just want to thank you for this call. It was super powerful. A lot of great nuggets were dropped, and I'd love to access the replay just to verify. It'll be posted on the website because I want to write a lot of the stuff down that I heard.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on, Liliana. And the on Empire Builders Pro under the resources tab, there's there's YouTube replay. There's our YouTube channel that has all of the recorded calls that are done by date that you can go in and pull, and this will be there as well.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you, all of you that contributed to the conversation today. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for your wisdom. Great seeing your faces. And what do we have? We have Systems with Selena this Friday. No, not this Friday.
We just did it. Yeah. So let's see. We have, actually, it's a quiet week. No, hang on.
Okay. So we're finishing up Activate, and then catch the recording on this. Rick's free Friday coaching call will be.
No, we just did it. We had it with Paul.
Oh, why did you guys get off the first and third?
We did. It was the first on Friday.
Oh, I was in bed, not well that day. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, I'm totally off. Don't listen to me.
That's why it was the first on Friday. So.
Okay. I'm like, wait a minute. This is the first week. Okay, you're right. Friday was the first. Gotcha. Okay. Make it a great day, everybody. And we'll catch the recording here and we'll talk soon.